added. So, we're gonna do a midterm prep. Now everyone's really anxious about that. And then, we'll find out what they're doing with the party, if it's even happening or what. And if it's not, I've got a lesson on green building programs, which I could postpone. So if we get caught up in the entertainment, I'll just postpone it. That's if it's good entertainment. If it's crappy entertainment, will come back to do some schoolwork. Oh, you guys. Yeah. So I don't want to start the prep until I'm sure everybody's here. Some people have to work and they come late, a little late, so we'll wait till maybe quarter after. So in the meantime, I'll entertain you. When anybody know what tap dancing is?
Yeah.
I'm not gonna dance. I wish I could, but you know, I did see something on the YouTube. Do any of you look at YouTubes?
Oh, wow.
There's just so much stuff on them, right? And once you get on them, right, then there's stuff related to it, and you go down the rabbit hole, and 5 hours later, you go, oh, shit, I got to study for an exam. But I have nothing to do. I have a lot to do, but technically I'm retired, so I have time, so I can. But I saw one with Steve Martin. You know who he is? Saturday Night Live. He's a comedian. He's earlier, probably before your time. He comes back and does shows with Martin Short, that Canadian comedian. They come back together. Well, if you don't know who that is, then it's not going to make any difference, right?
Well, we could have Steve Martin.
Steve Martin. The interesting thing is, I went to school with Steve Martin. We were together at Long Beach State taking philosophy class, and then he, of course, went to Pasadena and did comedy on the weekends and turned into a multi-millionaire. And I just turned into another poor schmuck. But he plays banjo. He's a really accomplished banjo player. He comes in town with other banjos. I think he's was in the last newspaper. You know the what's that newspaper called? Huh? The Independent. The Independent. Thank you. He was in the Independent last couple of weeks. But so I was on YouTube and they showed a picture of him with Gregory Hines. Now I know you won't know who Gregory Hines is. But he was a black comedian and dancer. He was a professional dancer. So he and Steve Martin did a tap dance together. You don't care.
Wow.
All right.
Where did you guys go to school together?
Long Beach State.
From LA?
Yeah, from LA. West LA. This was the oh my God, the 60s. The 1960s.
There's a lot of artists in that long.
Yeah, I know. That's amazing, isn't it? I know. It is. There are a lot. It's an interesting place. Yeah, look him up. I never thought he was the funniest guy, but he was on Saturday Night Live a lot. And,
Oh, second?
oh, he played in all those movies. Like, is that what you just mentioned?
Yeah.
Like they're like the Three Caballeros or something.
Yeah, he moved up in Three Amigos.
Three Amigos. The Caballeros was an earlier time. It was a cartoon. Yeah, Three Amigos. Yeah, he was one of Three Amigos. That guy, the white guy with I don't know if he wore glasses in that movie. Yeah, him. So anyway, you're late. I know you're. It's okay. It's okay. We're waiting for you.
I called my manager, like, hey, man.
Now you were late, but these guys over here, these guys were just goofing around. Zach and. So. Come up and get these two handouts. And hurry up and sit down and be quiet, okay? I'm trying to get this class started.
Or is it on? Is it recording?
It's on, thank you.
Alright.
It is on. All this is on the, all this is there for eternity. It's gonna go into space and they're gonna go. Who those earthlings have? The students are unruly, they don't pay any attention. I'm sure there's people on all across the universe. So my brother. Okay. So my brother, see, when you're a teacher, you can talk about anything you want. That's the beauty of it. This is actually related to what we're doing. I swear to God. So my brother went to Johns Hopkins. Have you ever heard of that college? It's in Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland. He was he took history, but it's famous for, I think it's got a good law school and medical school. But since he lives in Australia, I get all his mail. So I get the Johns Hopkins, bi-monthly or whatever it is, every so often. And I look through it because there's always interesting things. But what do you guess is in this particular issue? Yes, could your home make you sick? And the whole thing talks about just what we talked about last week, the whole thing. There's nothing here that we didn't cover. Pretty good, huh? A lot of times, especially multi-universities, big universities, they have a lot of research centers and all kinds of subjects. Like USC has everything, medicine and law and business and everything. And the ones who have sciences have a lot of experimental labs and do a lot of really good research and helps out, And Johns Hopkins does a lot of good research too. So somebody's doing this in one of their classes. I don't even know what it's about. It's interesting. And you guys thought I was just making all this stuff up, didn't you?
Right. You have a good imagination, man.
I can't get mad at that because it's true. Okay. So this weekend, Saturday, for those of you who aren't looking, we're gonna meet here. Are people listening? Because you're not gonna hear this and you're gonna go, God knows where. Where are you? So we're meeting here, 1:45 Saturday, and we're gonna drive to a commercial building by the airport. So we may want to carpool. We'll talk about that Saturday morning. Look at Passage Solar, big commercial Passage Solar. It's that charity. What's that called? That big charity on Hollister, right across from the airport. The biggest charity in Santa Barbara. It's huge. They always give relief.
That one light curtain right there.
Yeah, right near the lumber yard. What's that? Always relief. Huh? Direct relief. I think you always tell me what it is too, if I'm not mistaken. Direct relief. So we're gonna go there. I've gone there to talk to them and ask them about if I can bring a class or something. And they disappear and they go, just a minute, I'll be back. And then nobody comes for hours. So we're just gonna go and look at it ourselves. We're gonna hopefully somebody will open the front door. But it's got a big concrete, huge window in front that lets in the sun. I wanted to show you that. Then we're gonna go to Goleta Beach. I'm not gonna tell you what we're gonna look at there. And then we're gonna go to UCSB. It's on the way to UCSB. We're gonna go look at some there's a huge giant solar installation at one of the soccer fields. And I want you to see what a huge, really professional. It's so you can compare it to the one that we went to on West Campus. It's so much bigger and more. And we'll look at all the UC buildings are solarized. So what you guys ought to do is you all ought to get here like 15 minutes early and then get all the socializing out of the way before you start class. Because I realize you guys are friends and co-workers and stuff, and I understand wanting to talk, but it doesn't mix with a classroom situation too well. So try to come early if you can. Except, William, you probably can't, right? You probably work right up to it. Try. All right.
I'll work to the other one today.
Okay. Oh, look who's here. Flamis. Yeah, see, he knew there was a prep, so he was here a little bit earlier than you. Two handouts? Oh, and at the break, right?
Break time?
At the break, here's all the handouts we passed out in the beginning. So if some of you had to work or missed it for whatever reason, or just played hooky, or came late to the program, look on there and see, don't just go and take every one, because there's not enough for everybody to do that. So just go by your memory, and then if you've been keeping them and you have them with you, then you can tell which ones you don't have, okay? Because you can consult them for the test. And I also want you to have them. Because who knows, one of these days you may read them. And but I prepped them for the test. You probably won't even need anything but this prep for the test. But if you do, you have your text and these handouts to go to. And I know I tell you that. I even put the page on the handout or the text where the answers are. I did that one semester, didn't seem to help. And you still take your cell phone and look up the definition of things if you don't know, which is so chancy. But I see all these wrong definitions because they're general, they're not the way we discussed it.
You should try putting the page number again and they have to see what happens. Maybe it'll work this year. I got a feeling it's gonna work this semester.
He's good, he's good. So, yeah, so you know, that's okay. Because I'm not gonna prohibit it. I mean, why bother? But you take your chances with the outside definition. Except I'm pretty liberal with answers. If it's close, you know, close enough, I'll get it. But I've had some that were just, sometimes words have several meanings, you know, and we use it in a certain way in class. And then if you look it up on the internet, it'll have a little different.
Maybe a theory.
All right. Well, let's take roll. So, some of my things coming, but we'll wait till he comes. Landon. Even though I know some of you are here, pardon me, Matt, Manny, Danny, Inda, then Robin's here, Gavin's here, Brian's here, Flavi's here, Shelby's here, Danny Morgan's here, Marco's here, right?
Right here.
Oh, yeah. Jennifer's here, Julio's here, Alberto's here, right? Right. And William's here, Dennis was here, Elias is here. Gee, I think we have a full house. Luis is here. Oh, Ethan's here. The only one we don't have, and Zach's here. Wow. And Ethan make them late, or maybe he won't. No, no communication yet. Okay, so, I'll try to remember what handout these are from, but I may not, and I may be wrong, so, but like I said, you probably won't even need it. So I'm gonna ask about the value of landscaping with native plants. That's obviously in the first one, and it's a pretty obvious answer, right? What might that answer be? What's that? I'm sorry. Oh, say it again.
They don't need a lot of maintenance.
Yeah. They've evolved here for a long time, so they don't need, they need whatever this area has to give, which is not a lot of water. That kind of thing. They've also worked on the arrangement with all the insects and all the predators. So, they work on an arrangement that with the insects, that certain insects won't kill them. Now, how do you think they work that out? That, you know, that's a figure of speech, right? Because obviously plants don't work things out. They don't have a brain like animals do. So, but it's a figure of speech. But how do you think they work out an arrangement with insects that initially poison them?
Evolution,
What?
the ones that aren't poisoned, just
Yeah.
live.
Yeah, that's how, that's how evolution works. The ones that don't get poisoned live, and the ones that get poisoned die. It could be the same plant, but some slight difference in their chemistry. And then we have plants that live alongside those dangerous insects from there on out. So that's how it all works. Then I'm gonna ask how you can deal with flooding from heavy rains in one's yard. There's various, things we can do. I'll tell you one. You can think about the yard itself, but you can also think about the house's contribution to the yard. So a lot of, your house takes up a portion of your yard, right? And it's got a roof, so the rain that comes down there goes into a, downspout, gutters and downspouts. So you have to deal with that too. So one of the answers would be how you deal with that. Gray water. So gray water is all the used water except for black water. Black water is toilet waste, solid waste, everything else is called gray water. And that's not the question, but that's just a, so that's just what's going to go into the question. So remember we talked about that the gray water systems that use gray water. The one we talked about used laundry because that's the simplest and that's been okayed by the state to do without a permit. And we have a video to look at that too. We didn't get to, so that goes into our collective Saturday. But it's any gray water, and especially and including gray water coming from just the laundry, right? It's going to have stuff in it, right? I mean, do any of you guys work on your cars, or some of you guys might even be mechanics also, right? Any of you? Yeah. So you get oil and stuff on your clothes and you put it in the wash. I mean, a car involves a lot of nasty stuff actually, whether you're cleaning it, waxing it, or working on the engine. So that goes into gray water. And that goes out to your garden, right? This thing's called, the laundry one's called Laundry the Landscape. So what's the problem with that water going into landscaping? I just described the water, possibly what the water might look like.
Plants in your garden.
Yeah, it's gonna harm them, right? Some of that stuff may be harmful to plants. Also, if you put it in an edible garden, the part of garden that you eat, you're gonna get that stuff back. So they say, well, that's enough for the answer, but I'll tell you what happens. Plant stems, trunks and stems are really great filters. So if the water they're drawing on is polluted, like it may have contaminants from the gray water, it will filter it. And by the time it gets to the plant, it won't kill the plant. But your plants that don't have that system are just low in the soil, like most plants you eat, those will get a lot of it. And if you eat them, you can eat fruit off a tree in a gray water area because the gray, anything in the gray water that's not good for you is filtered to the stem by the time it gets to the fruit. So do they have so also one of the things in your laundry is, oh my God, in America that has a fetish with soap. You didn't know that, didn't you? My God, we have soaps for everything and every kind. And most of them are pretty toxic. It's toxicity is cheap. It's usually the cheapest chemical to put in things. So that's going to go into your gray water too. So what might you do to prevent that? Not using soap's not an option.
Well, natural.
Yeah, you get natural soaps, soaps that are We used to call them biodegradable. They changed that now to bio enhancing or some stupid other word, but if you do laundry to landscape gray water, you need to invest in a special type of laundry soap. So what did we say about laundry, landscape, gray water, and the city and state codes and regulations? Yeah, if you're doing laundry to landscape, you don't need a permit anywhere in California. That's just California. I don't think any other states have done that. Which is great, because the least you have to do with the building department bureaucracy, the better you're off, as most of you know. Okay, water conservation. That means using water efficiently, not wasting it. What do you suppose the two major things are that do that? What's that? What are two things that can help conserve water in the house? The main two categories of things. What have we been talking about in here? And we went to Ferguson's and we looked at fixtures. Yeah, so the efficiency of the fixture is one thing, right? And that's now constrained by law, so we pretty much, have to do that. What else? What else can we do for water conservation?
Use gray water.
Use gray water? Yeah, yeah, we could. That is one thing. How about something that just has to do with your behavior? Yeah, you can use less water. Take shorter showers. How many of you take long showers? Come on, be honest. How many of you take baths? Like to take baths? Am I the only one?
Take a bath?
Eli, do you take baths? Do you take baths in Switzerland? Most people take baths. Okay. So there's nothing you can do about a bath. Yeah. Yeah, bath, it's just gonna take the water, you have to fill it up to cover you, so that's that. Shower, you can take shorter ones. Have you ever been to campgrounds and they have the showers you pay for? Put a quarter in?
Yeah.
Can anybody do it in a quarter, one thing?
I think it's more now.
Yeah. Used to be a quarter, I used to try to always spend a lot of back. You gotta be quick. I like that, though. At least it allows you, if you don't want to be, if you want to pay for it, you can pay for it with that, it's real fair that way. Yeah, so efficient appliances and careful usage of water. So when you brush your teeth, it's getting personal, I know. I mean. Clean more often, I know. So how many of you put the toothpaste on your toothbrush? I assume, well, there's different ways of doing it. That's what I do. And then you brush your teeth. Do you leave the faucet on while you're doing that? Of course not. Did you ever do that when you were little? Did you do that? No. Your parents thought you will, huh? They said, little Johnny, don't let the water run. You know who else lets water run? Or cooks. How many in here cook? Yeah, it's easy to leave water on doing that, right? You're washing stuff. Oh, yeah, that's probably the smartest way. I'm sure. Yeah. Okay. You just never know what our water problems are gonna be. The world's changing a lot. Okay, I'm gonna ask, what is daylighting? Just gonna ask that. Now, the best definition is a replacement of artificial light, electric light. And and there's all kinds of reasons why we would do that. So you can do those or not. A lot of times when you tell a purpose of something, you're kind of describing it. So I'm sure. So passive solar. Remember that?
What did you say?
What?
What did you say?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet. I'm getting the area so you can bring your mind into focus. Passive solar, space heating. It's good to say space heating because there's hot water heating, you know, to distinguish it. So what are two things that passive solar space heating requires beyond what a normal house would look like? Yeah, more windows and maybe special windows, but at least more window area, because you're using that sun, so you want more of it to come in. Then what else?
Or to store the energy?
What's that?
Or to store the energy?
Yeah, what's that called? Anybody? Mass, did you say? Yeah, thermal mass. Good. Good. Yeah, you need a corresponding comparable thermal mass. And we have all those formulas in your handout. I'm not gonna ask you any of the math on that, but that's how you figure out how much, you know, probably be a good idea to start with the house that you're designing and how much area of walls and floor that you can use for mass before you decide on the big windows. Because if you design the windows first, then you go, oh, Christ, where do I get more mass? And then you're doing all kinds of stupid things. So yeah. Okay. I asked, what is gray water? I already told you what that is, so. You might put where gray water is from in the house. What is a dual flush toilet? When that's a trick question, I ask it that. It's in the text. If some of you didn't go to Ferguson's with us on my house, both of which had dual flush toilets. It's in the plumbing chapter in the text. And then what is a composting toilet? And then what is the Energy Star label for appliances? Anybody here buy their own appliances? You guys are kind of young, or you live in random places or homes. Have you, okay. And do you buy energy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Best Buy, bro.
Yeah. You know, originally they were a little bit more than regular. I used to go to Sears. Sears always had a lot of Energy Star things. Now they're not that much more, you know, so it's worth getting. But so just define or describe what Energy Star label is, like who issues it and what it's for. Okay. So has anybody heard of the Environmental Protection Agency? I mean, there's plenty of good reasons why you wouldn't, but I'm just curious. Anybody? So it's an agency, right? It's a bureau in the U.S. government, federal government, like the income tax division. They have an environmental protection agency, and Nixon started it. It was started in Nixon's time, which is interesting because Nixon did a lot of crazy things, and you don't think of him as doing something that good. But conservatives used to be people. One of their things was to take care of land, to conserve land. And they were really good at that. Barry Goldwater, they would set aside land, and Nixon started the EPA. They've gone away from that now as a party, but they used to be there because they like the country they live in. They want to preserve it. They wanted to, yeah.
So, are you talking about parks?
Oh, yeah, they set our parks or preserves. I mean, we hear about the parks, but they also set aside land for animals and Native Americans that set aside land for them. All kinds of reasons, but yeah, yeah. It's the whole history of Native Americans is interesting because this was all their land. And we took it from them. And then we gave them back reservations, usually in not very great places, you know, like Oklahoma. Cherokees were in South Carolina and Georgia, beautiful land. Have you ever been to, you know, the what's that highway? Is it Blue Ridge Highway? Just gorgeous land. Of course, we made them go to Oklahoma, it was desert, unfortunately. But they're coming back. The treaties are bringing them more land all the time. I watch a show every week called what's it called? I forget. It's like American Indian Today, something like that. It's a daily show. It's really great. It's just a half hour and they go into everything Native Americans are doing in the country. Sometimes they'll even do Polynesia or Mexico or Canada. I can't say they're coming back because they've always been here and they always will be. They're so much smarter than we are. They'll be here when we blow this place up. They'll just be down there raising their corn and beans and squash. Okay. What's radiation? What's that? Well, light's a form of radiation. Okay, let's put it that way. But let's go deeper. And what is radiation itself? I mean, you may not know, but if anybody knows, want to hazard a guess, Robin?
Like waves travel, like electromagnetic.
Yeah, it is electromagnetic waves, exactly. But it comes from all kinds of physical processes. It just has to do with matter and how matter works. And a lot of so one of my missions here is to get you guys interested in more science than you're probably already interested in. Some of you may be science freaks already, but a lot of you probably just. But so I think it's good to know a little science. But have any of you had chemistry along the way? I mean, they even teach it in grade school now. Yeah, okay. So you know you have electrons that are orbiting around. At least that's the picture we have. It's a metaphor, but anyway. And when those electrons, there's different shells, they call them. They're just different levels of energy they can jump to. And when they jump from one place to another, and sometimes they just do it spontaneously, a lot of times they'll emit a photon, which is an energy, a piece of energy. And all the lights are photons. Any electromagnetic piece is a photon. It could be light. Technically, radio waves would be photons. We don't usually call them that. We usually restrict it to light, but X-rays are technically photons. So any of those waves or particles, we call them both, that come out of just the natural workings of nature. I mean, the sun's pretty natural, right? We didn't create the sun. It's been giving off photons for a billion years, and it will for another billion, you know. But those photons are what we use for our solar panels. The photons knock off the atoms that create the electricity. So they're pretty important things to know about. So what was the question? Oh yeah.
Radiation.
Yeah. So all those, anything that has to do with photons is radiation. Yeah, that's one way you could say it.
I saw photon.
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 And photon, yeah. And you know, I said that matter gives off photons. Well, it's not just the helium and the hydrogen in the sun, but each and every one of our bodies emits photons. So we're emitting radiation constantly, every body, you, yes, you. But it's so low grade and so little that we don't notice it, we don't even measure it. But every piece of matter, because of the way the chemistry works, emits radiation. Oh, yeah. Things we make emit, and in fact, we create them to emit radiation. But any material object by itself emits a little bit of radiation. And then we take advantage of it, we amp it up and we create it too. Okay, so this is a multiple choice question. It is green to use less electricity in a house because, and then I get 4 answers. So what does green mean?
Sustainable?
Sustainable, what does sustainable mean?
Good for the environment.
What?
Good for the environment?
Yes, good for the environment, okay. Conserving things, right?
Renewable?
Renewable, sure. So, so electricity, using less electricity is green. Oh, we could talk about it. In what ways?
It uses less whatever fuel is.
Yeah, and it's usually fossil fuel. And so, yeah, so we're using less fossil fuel. That's a good. That's a green. Also, costs money too, right? So we're saving money. It's funny. This question was made before we had heat pumps and a lot of electrical things now that are saving us money. So we're not looking, in fact, we're not looking poorly at electricity at all now. We're trying to go electric. The fossil fuels is a big one. So we at Home Depot, in the light section, we talked about light bulbs. What were the majority of the light bulbs there? What type of light bulbs? LED. Anybody remember what the name of the old light bulb was? The original light bulb?
Was it?
No, before fluorescent.
Halogen?
No, before halogen. Those are types. Incandescent. I'm having a little trouble hearing tonight, so I don't always hear it first time. Yeah, incandescent.
We still use those as well.
At where?
As a job,
Oh, yeah.
so we gotta ship them to Arizona. No, to get them to California.
Oh,
Don't tell anybody, okay?
but
End that part right.
who's using them?
Nobody.
Who's using them? What are their names and addresses?
Santa Barbara City College.
No, but they're more expensive to use. That's why I'm saying.
Oh, yeah.
And you can, well, if you have like lights, cable lamps that take incandescent, and you can't afford new lamps, so you want to keep getting incandescent, that's not really a good argument, because you'll have paid for a new lamp in no time by using LED. So you might as well just junk the incandescent lamp and get a new LED table lamp. Okay, we talked about dimmers. Why are they green?
Lower the level of the.
Yeah, you're using less, you bring the level of light down, you're using less of it, less electricity. Same thing with outside sensors. What do they call those? What? Motion detectors, yeah. Yeah, those are really great. They're great for your neighbors too. Nobody wants the lights on all the time at night, but if you have motion detector to keep away thieves. And
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
yeah. That was a great invention, whoever did that. The sensors. And how many of you have seen the landscape lighting, you know, those lights they put in the ground?
Oh,
And
yeah.
a lot of those are solar powered, right? So they don't even touch your electrical system. That's pretty cool. Okay, AC, DC, do you know the difference? Current, do you know the difference between that?
Okay.
Yeah, alternating and direct. Everybody know the difference? If you don't know the difference, raise your hand. Okay. So. They're made differently. It's a different process. The DC was the original current, and it just involved putting certain chemicals together and created a current. They did that 1800s pretty on. And then I guess it was Tesla. He did AC, right? Thomas Edison, who invented the light bulb, he had DC current. He wanted to ship DC all over, put up grids with DC. And Tesla came along and said, no, here's another kind of current that reverses and it's safer and blah, 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 it's cheaper. And so they went with Tesla, which was a good thing because it is a better system. So what we get out of the outlet is AC. We've gone with that. So we have alternating current now. We still have DC, like if you have batteries, you know, in anything, that's DC. Anything that's battery, that's the little battery, flashlight batteries. Lithium batteries, I guess that's DC too, right?
Yeah.
All batteries, so lithium too, so that's a difference. Batteries are, and then you might have appliances that are DC. Campers, RVs sometimes have DC appliances that run on batteries or DC current. But we've gotten away from it pretty much with that.
Well, would your phone fall in that category? Yeah.
Phone's AC, right?
DC. Battery, running on battery. Basically, your little.
Oh, yeah. So that's transformer,
Yeah,
it's changing
transformer,
the AC to DC.
Yeah,
So it's like a mini inverter.
literally anything that has battery.
Okay, yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it. Yeah, okay. I knew it plugged in, so I just automatically thought AC because that's what the plug is, but it always has that little transformer. Okay. What's the machine that or instrument that turns photovoltaic DC to AC current that we can use now? Inverter. That's on, you know, you got one of your handouts was on solar and it shows little systems and they have inverters in there and charge controllers. So that's where you find that kind of answer. So the two types of storage for solar electricity now are what? Two types of storage for photovoltaic solar electricity. Main two types, there's probably many. So batteries, right? We just talked about that. If you live out in the country and you're not near a grid, you've got to have your PC charge batteries for you to live on. So you have a whole array, a whole crap load of batteries. Yeah, so there's others, but I should say domestic use. The other main one is the grid.
What?
The grid, the electrical grid that you get from an electrical power company. When you have solar panels, you can plug the excess so that it goes back to the power company and you get credit for it. So it's essentially storing your electricity for you. And then there are all kinds of other things like Elias was mentioning, there's water.
I mean, like if you.
It doesn't really store electricity, it stores energy, yeah.
Yeah.
But sometimes we have these, you know, right on the bridge route going to the Central Valley from LA. A couple of big lakes, Pyramid Lake, I think it's called. And they pump the water to a higher area when the electricity is cheap, like at night. They pump all this water, and then when electricity is expensive, they let the water come back and turn turbines and create electricity.
Right.
You've seen in towns, especially in rural areas, those big, they look like golf balls on tees. They're big towers with a ball on the top. Ever seen those? In towns, Midwest, they'll keep some. We've gotten rid of them in the hip cities. That was the same thing. They would pump water into those when it was cheap, and then when it was expensive, they'd let it come down and take the energy. That's a really green way, right? Just moving water. All right. But I'm just asking you for the grid and the battery answer for water. Okay, so. So what are the dangers of installing electrical panels? The few of us who went on the roof, we talked about it Saturday. But you can, electrocution's one. So picture this, the batteries are pushed up, or they're on a conveyor belt or just pushed up. So you're at the edge of the roof and you pick up the battery, a couple of you maybe, and then you put it, you're holding it on top of a roof. This big 4x8, not 4x8, this big 3x6 panel. What's the problem there? You can fall over, but especially if it's windy. Because it acts as a sail, the wind just hits that panel and you're flying over the roof. So that's happened to a lot of people. That's why it's singled out as a problem. But you could also trip. If you trip, you're usually not going to hurt yourself so much. But if you're blowing off the roof of the panel, you're going to probably hurt yourself. So being blown off the roof and being electrocuted. So if you use solar electrical PV panels, photovoltaic, right? Everybody know that word, photovoltaic? This is a part of our landscape now. Okay, so what does photo mean? Didn't we just use a word like this recently? That's an L. So photo is like the sun, photons, right? Light. It's probably Greek for light, who knows? Probably not. And voltaics like electrical energy. So photovoltaic is getting electrical energy from the sun. So we call it PV. So why do we have a name for it? Because there's another kind of panel that goes on the roof. And that's called what? Solar panel? No, they're both solar. They both use sun energy. Solar hot water, right? We talked about that. They have pipes in it that are painted black in the sun. So if you didn't have those and all you had was a PV panel, you'd have to heat your electricity. You have to heat your water by electricity, right? You get the electricity from the PV panel and then you plug it into some kind of heating system and heat your water. So, but electrical heat's expensive because it involves resistance. It's just resisting so much that it gives off heat. It's a real poor use of electricity. So solar hot water is more efficient. Now, we're probably going to skip that revolution or near revolution because now we're getting heat pump electrical heaters, which are much more efficient than the old electrical heaters. They're not more efficient than photovoltaics, but they're easier. You can just buy them and put them in the same spot as your old water heater. You don't have to fool with the roof array. So we'll probably end up skipping those, even though, like I said, the whole world uses solar hot water. A lot of you are Hispanic and have families in Mexico and visit Mexico. Is that right? Some of you. Do you see photovoltaic? Do you see photovoltaic setups in Mexico on the roofs? I'm sure you do. Every place I've been, Greece, Europe, everywhere has those. you know, and they usually have a little tank, a holding tank, so it heats up the water into the tank and then when they need it, they just drain the tank. So, you know, it's cheaper and simpler than what we're doing, but, you know, we're this tech crazy country that wants to have everything instantly and cleanly, and I mean, there's some value in that, but it also can be wasteful. So those two, photovoltaic and solar hot water, the two kinds of panels on roofs. So Saturday, was it last Saturday? Yeah, we went out to that frame behind the tiny home, right? One of the things I was gonna do, but I forgot my staple gun. I had a list of stuff to bring from home and staple guns was at the top, and I folded the list over, you know, the stickums on those things. I folded over so it would stick in my pants, and so I forgot to bring them. I realized that's what happened because I looked at the list and I said, where's the thing? I turned it over and it's right on the picking part. I pulled it over. So anyway, I was gonna put up plastic and caulking and show you, I'll do it another weekend and show you how people use polyethylene for air vapor barrier. You know, you had to staple it and put it in. I was just gonna give you a little demonstration, but I didn't have that. So anyway, my question was, do we need that polyethylene barrier in as a air barrier in Santa Barbara? Given the weather we have here? Nah. I mean, if you're wealthy and none of this money means anything to you, you could do that and make your house really tight if you wanted to. But the weather's so good, we don't really need to worry about that. And it's dry a lot of the time. You know, we have it's considered a dry, what do they call it? They have different ways of zoning, but we live in a dry, temperate zone. So, like it's getting, right? It's getting dry. You notice that? You notice the sundowner? Was it today I noticed it or yesterday? I was outside. So that's when fire season starts, right? We get that warm air, everything's dry now. And the warm air is coming off the mountains at night. So this is when we gotta really be careful. So with dry like that and not a lot of humidity the year round, we never have humidity like most of the other places in the world. So we don't need that kind of barrier. It's a lot of work. Every exterior wall, every square foot, putting plastic and caulking the seams and the joints and stapling it. A lot of work. Remember that machine we saw the other day on the YouTube where they pressurized the house and then so the air would tend to get out and it took that material with it and plugged all the holes. That by itself would eliminate the need for a plastic barrier. And again, I wouldn't do that machine here, maybe in Lompoc, places where it's windy and colder, but certainly not Santa Barbara, Goleta. So there's a thing, you should know this. There's a thing called a dew point, DEW, dew, morning dew. It's the moisture that's on plants when you get up. Everybody knows that, right? You've seen that? You never know. If you grew up in New York City, you might never see it. But so the dew point, that same word dew point is when water condenses, water vapor condenses to water. And that's actually what dew is. It's water vapor in the air that's hit the plants and it condenses as water on the plants. So you have little droplets. That same phenomenon can happen in a wall because you have warm moist air produced in every house. It goes into the wall. If it's cold, very cold outside, and that cold air comes into the wall, and where that cold air and the moist warm air hit is called the dew point. And if the dew point's in the wall, which that case would be, then it will cause that water, that vapor to evaporate, to condense into water. And so it becomes, the walls become actually literally wet with water, the insulation and the bottom plate. And it can rot out, it can wreck your insulation, rot out your bottom plate. So it's not a problem here because we create the same amount of moist, warm air in our houses, but they leak so much and the windows are open all the time that it just goes that way. It doesn't get into the walls. So that's one of the nice things about living here. But that's why you put that plastic barrier up to keep that warm moisture out of that wall. Yes.
Is the dew point the temperature or the location of?
The dew point's the location because it's always the same temp. It's always, is it? No, it's not all the same temperature. It's a range of temperature, but the point makes it a point. Yeah. If you live in those climates where you do that, then there's just a lot of discussion about that and a lot of science around that, but we don't need to go into that. So because of that, because of warm, moist air created in the house, wanting to go out, why does warm, moist air wanting to leave a house?
Or what?
Why does warm, moist air want to leave the inside of a house?
Does he raise?
What?
Does he raise?
Yeah, it rises, okay. Yeah,
Heat always goes to cold.
yeah, heat goes to cold, they're related, it'll rise also. But heat goes to cold, so if your house is warmer on the inside than the outside, that doesn't have to be. Most of the nights in Santa Barbara are colder outside than inside. So if you don't have a vapor barrier keeping the warm, moist air out of your wall, it's going into your wall. If you put a barrier on the outside of your wall, like tar paper, that prevents moisture from getting out, what's going to happen to that moisture? It's going to stay in your wall and condense and create the same problem. So we don't put a water barrier on the outside of the wall. We want the air to go through the wall and outside. So what do we use instead? It's pretty bad when you have to compete with a moth, you know? Yeah, what? Yeah, Tyvek. So that's what Tyvek does. It allows one of the things tar paper did was keep rain out of the house. If it rained hard and it got through the clapboard or the siding to get into the house. So we use Tyvek instead. So it keeps water out, bulk water out, but it lets the water vapor. See, this is just, we're not just preparing, I'm not just preparing you for this exam. I'm going over the stuff we've learned so that it sticks, because it obviously didn't stick a lot the first time. Didn't stick enough, I'll say. Okay. So that's why we're going to do this. So if it seems like a lesson, it's because it is a lesson. Okay. I'll try to hurry it up so we can get through it. It is impossible, it's a true or false, and is it possible to prevent large convection loops in wall cavities with fiberglass batt insulation? True or false? It's impossible to prevent large convection loops. So what creates those loops? They got to have a pathway, right? Air has to have a pathway. So where do we talk about pathways in the walls? Where the insulation didn't cover enough? Okay. So, and what do we say to alleviate that?
Staple it.
Or put it in right so it touches all 6 sides, so there's no passageway for it. So it is possible. That was a double negative question, which I hate to ask because it confuses people. So I'm just gonna tell you. It is impossible to prevent large convection loops. No, it's not. If you do the insulation right, it prevents that. Okay. That one's false. should we put the insulation in front of a wire in the wall or behind it? Or
No.
neither?
Either,
Because,
because they run it through, and that way there's space.
yeah, there's space either way. Yeah, so we split it, we pull it apart and split it. Good answer. Okay. See, some of you weren't here too, so we're going over stuff that where some of you weren't here, and so we'll all hear it. Stud bay insulation. Ever understand that phrase, stud bay insulation? It's the bay between the studs insulation. Cannot prevent the thermal bridging of the adjacent studs. That means that there's gonna be thermal bridging in a wall with studs. Yeah, no matter how much insulation between it, it's still gonna go too fast through the studs. What is rigid foam insulation best used for? Remember the sheet foam, not the spray foam, but the sheets that we saw at Home Depot, rigid, they call it rigid foam insulation. What's the good use of that?
The sound.
Yeah, you could use it for sound, but let's assume, no, it's true, but let's assume we're talking about heat retention. Those would sound, and for the same reason they would help sound, they help retain heat. So where would you use those?
On the outside of the house?
Yeah, on the outside of the house. So they're 4x8 sheets, so you can bridge, you can put it on like sheeting and bridge across the studs. So the studs don't transmit heat through them or sound. Yeah, so you can use that on the inside. And we have things like rigid insulation. We have soundboard, which is a paper product. For sound on the inside. Yeah, that's stuff I told you about that.
In bolted ceilings, they use them in front as well.
They use what?
For bolted ceilings, we get bolted ceilings and you redo the roof. A lot of times they throw those rigid foam.
Yeah.
On top as well.
Yeah,
A lot of old houses don't have any.
right. So there are roof applications, but mostly exterior applications where you're trying to cover big areas. And it's pretty obvious in a house where there's bays, stud bays, ceiling rafter bays. Ceiling joist bays and rafter bays. You know, you can staple in fiberglass those. But the rigid is, okay, where's the rigid not good? How about inside the stud bay? You have to cut it, right?
Yeah.
Because they come in 4x8 sheets. And even if you cut it perfectly rectangular, that doesn't mean the bays are rectangular. You know, they're a little off, right? There's no such thing as a perfect. Go measure a house and measure between the studs anywhere and you'll find slight differences. So there'll be cracks there where the air can get through. Whereas fiberglass will tend to compress against the walls. So you could do that, and you could also take caulking and fill the cracks. It seems like more work to me, but you could do that. You could also put that stuff in and then do for part of the wall and then do a foam, spray foam that would cover the cracks for the other part. You know. Because you can't put spray foam over fiberglass. That's not gonna make sense. So, and of course, I know you all know this, why the back fiberglass insulation is good. When the insulation has a backing to it, why is that? I think it's better. I think everybody does.
It's easier
Help hold them,
to.
Help pull it in place because they can sag. You know, gravity will pull things down over time. Especially they'll sag if you have to cut a smaller than, you know, they're made to fit into a typical 16 on center, 25 on center bay. And they're pretty friction fit there. But if you cut your own, you have a smaller bay, you may not cut it as good and it won't stick, so it'll tend to sag. So stapling it in place is a good way to keep it from sagging. leasing solar panels. Did we talk about that? So there's two ways to get solar panels. You can buy them, you can go to a company and say, install 10 panels on this roof. And then you own they put them on and you own the panels. You pay for the panels and the labor. Or the alternative is to lease it. You go to a company and say, I want to lease the panels, which means the company owns them, which means the company owns all the electricity that is derived from those. So what they do is they charge you, they take all the electricity and whatever they get from the grid, from the electrical companies, they give you a portion of that and they guarantee that it'll be a lower rate than you're paying now. So it's lower than your current rate and electricity always goes up. It's never gone down. So it'll be locked in at that lower rate. It may not seem like a lot now, but as each year goes by, it's a better savings. So, and that, I don't know how it's, when they first did it, they may have different schemes now, but when they first offered that, it was for free. They would put the panels up for free, so you didn't pay anything. So what a great way to get everybody to have solar. And you paid less for your electricity. You didn't pay as less as if you own the panel, but then you have to pay for the panels. So over time, once you pay for your panels, then the electricity is free and you get a better return than the lease panels. But the reason people lease them is they don't have the money to buy the panels up front, like a car, you know, and they probably have some monthly plans, but usually they want you to put it up front. And so if you don't have that money, you can still get solar and still get a reduced rate. So why would you not do that? I'm sure there's reasons. But anyway, that's the that's the good and the bad of both those systems. And do solar panels have to always be on the south roof, facing south?
No.
Yeah. You just get, you don't get the full, if you want the maximum insolation, that's a word for sun energy. You put them on the south with the right thing, but you can't always do that. And if you put them on, like I've got some on my north roof, and you get a percentage, like instead of 100% of what you could get, you get 85%. And I'm willing to live with that because I really want the solar. So, and different places like our afternoon west direction has a lot of sun. So solar panels on west sides in Santa Barbara are also very good. And different regions have different, you know. Okay, the directions of tilt for PVC panels. There's two tilts. So here's a roof and here's a panel. What are the two tilts? It could be like that. No, I mean, what are the what not the math, the angle of the tilt. What are the?
Well, 18%, right?
No, what are the direct, yeah, I'm not asking the question, it's too confusing. So I'll just tell you. Panels are tilted south to north, right? They're tilted that way. They're tilted a certain, what do they call that? What do they call north and south?
Hemisphere? Direction?
It's direction.
The pole.
There's another word, I can't find it. Oh, did you say azimuth? Somebody did, no, okay. Azimuth is what they call it. That's the that's the angle that it's tilted in relation to south. Azimuth. Remember the science fiction writer? What was his name? Asimov, probably. Science fiction.
AZIMOV.
Asimov. I gave anybody an A who knows what nationality that word comes from. Everybody, even the people that haven't looked up all day looked up. Time's up. Look it up. at home and see how you missed your age by not knowing that. So that's the direction we'll call it. That's what Williams said, right? Direction?
Yeah.
Like north, south. And then there's a, what they just call tilt. Hey, look, hey, somebody take out their PV handout. I guess I could do that too. Well, I told you a lie.
You better.
You ready to tell me I just,
Yeah, you
you tried to tell me I misspelled it?
Huh?
Did you try to tell me I misspelled it?
You tried, but you didn't hear me. I googled it.
Oh, you did?
No.
Yeah, it's on that. See, azimuth shows the angle from south and tilt shows the up and down. So all solar panels have those two tilts. Okay. We haven't talked a lot about this, but did we talk about the pressure forces in a house?
Pascal or what?
Yeah, I mean, pressures you can measure in pascals, but just in terms of what kinds of pressures. So when you have a windy day, how many of you guys live in Lompoc? Some of you. A couple of you. So when a wind hits a wall, what do you suppose happens? Some of it's reflected and some of it goes into the house.
Does that have to do anything with the blower door?
No.
Oh, you're talking about outside air.
Well, I'm talking about different forces. That is a force, but I mean natural force. So wind's one. So wind pressurizes your house. It blows into the house. Then the house has more pressure than it did before it was windy. And so that pressure wants to balance itself out the backside of the house, which doesn't have wind. There you go. There you go. So when it's in the house, it's pressurizing the house and it's gonna go out the backside. So it essentially goes through your house. That's why it's uncomfortable. It creates straps, goes through your house. There's also a force because warm air, hot air rises. So that's a force. And when the air goes up, what's below? Nothing. It's a vacuum. So you get a pressure difference when warm air rises. Fireplaces create pressure too. So all those. So that's the answer. What can cause pressure differences in a house? Wind, fireplaces, convection. If you don't have wind or fireplaces, you still get convection. Why does the new building code require only electrical power in new homes?
You're getting rid of that.
Yeah, and why is that? Because gas,
Is it fossil fuel?
what kind of gas is it that they won't let in? Natural gas, which is methane. Yeah, we call it natural gas. The gas companies trained us to call it natural gas. All gas is natural. It's not a very specific name. So it's methane. And what happens when you burn methane? Yeah, you get carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide. Some of the methane doesn't burn. All those are bad for the global warming to go in the atmosphere. So we're trying to get rid of the combustion of fossil fuels, natural gas, coal, oil. So that's why California is kind of a leader in those kind of environmental things. And people complain about it costing money. Because gas is cheap, natural gas is a really cheap way to heat your home. It's going up now, but gasoline's a cheap fuel for a car. But you know, they're causing, you want to live in the weather that's been going on, you want to have downtown Santa Barbara flooded like New York City. So we're trying to combat that. So that's something I actually talk more about in my classes, but I'm not going to in this one. About global warming, but it's something to learn about. Some of you may already know a lot about it, but if you ever see a show or a talk somewhere that's gonna. And a lot of times these talks are bringing it up to date because they make climate models, and then when all that stuff happens, the models change because it's new weather phenomena, and they change the model, so they have to keep updating the model. So, and with updating the models, they have updated predictions on how bad things are going to get, or how less bad. So it's good to pay attention to that because it will affect all of us. So, so if you see anything on TV or anything that says, you know, a global warming report or a discussion, you know, tune into it if you can. It's important. I know it does affect us directly, but we don't notice, especially in this paradise we live in. Hardly any effects. That rain that we got, that huge rain, that was an effect. Monsoon rains are an effect, and we'll be getting more of those.
Storm that we got now, too, right? Like-
Yeah. Yeah. And they're kind of out of the blue. They're not expected, and a lot of water comes down. So, you know, we gotta learn. We're dealing pretty well with them, but it's gonna get worse. So you have to keep at it. Three things a blower door can be used for. Blower door, testing a house. Anybody? Okay, what's ventilation?
Ventilation is,
Come on. How a house breathes, ventilation?
HVAC.
What? So, does the government want to make sure our houses breathe enough for our health?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they put it into the building code. When we have to, the air has to change out of a house every 3 hours. Yeah, or 0.3 changes every hour. And that'll get rid of any toxins and humidity that might be unhealthy. Those things are all unhealthy. So that's one thing. To determine if we have minimum ventilation, blower door will tell us. Run a blower door, tell if we're okay with the law in terms of ventilating enough. Almost every house built is that in the last, before green building came in, it's gonna pass that. But the new ones won't. So, what they have to do is, in a new house that's tight, they have to run a blower door test to tell how tight it is. And they have to submit that data to the building department, and then they also have to submit data that tells how they're gonna bring that tightness back. Enough ventilation to make it livable again. So all that's gotta be, so the blower door determines the ventilation requirements. If the house meets minimum ventilation requirements, it determines if the house is leaky or not and how much. Now they do it by how much they compare it to other houses. That's all they can do. There's no magic number, but they know a really, really tight, well-built house has very few air changes. And then a really leaky house that's got tons of holes has really a lot of air change. So they can rate in between that, and your house falls in the middle. You know, that's where you are. And then it allows, the third thing is allows you to find the holes in your shell. You pressurize, you depressurize the house. So there's no pressure inside. The pressure on the outside forces air in all the cracks. And you put a cigarette or a incense or whatever, and it'll blow it in a little thing, and you'll see it. You go, there it is. With that new machine we saw, you don't need that anymore. But until that gets universal, blower door does that. That new machine works on a blower door too. Why does that sealer, hole sealer that we saw in the film, why does it need a blower door?
Make it go to the leaks in the house,
Because what?
to like push the.
Yeah. Okay, they'll create a pressurize the house. You gotta pressurize the house to push that stuff out through the. Okay, we're almost done. I got a few extra on here. engineered lumber. It's wood fiber in various shapes. Fiber is the important part of wood. It allows for strength. Trees are unbelievable in the way their fibers stacked up in terms of strength. But engineered lumber, we're using parts of trees, waste parts of trees. So we need glue and compression to make that. But once we get the glue and the compression going with the fiber, we can make really strong beams out of little chips of wood. Pretty miraculous. Advanced framing we looked at uses less wood, right? Remember?
What was it?
Advanced framing
No.
uses less wood. So does that mean the house is less strong and unsafe? No. And the only reason we know is that the people that started had engineers tested before they sold the system, got the system out. So it's strong enough. Name 3 kinds of engineered lumber. Yeah, let's do it. For people who missed,
LVL.
LVL, plywood, just ordinary plywood.
PSL.
What?
PSL.
Is that like Paralams?
Yeah.
Paralams or PSL would, they have different names. Glue lambs,
OSB.
OSB, yeah, plywood and OSB, it's like plywood, so. And then one, I-joists. They're made up of those products, but they're special.
What about
Wheat board, yes, engineered lumber, wheat board, good particle board, yeah, anything that's not a tree. And they're all made out of trees, like plywood's just. They take trees and they just, skin them
right?
and make layers, but. It's engineered because it's made in a factory, all these things are made in a factory. What does VOC stand for? Don't say it, you just. VOC, volatile organic compound.
Oh.
Air quality contaminants consist only of toxic outgassing chemicals. Like formaldehyde, is that true? Where, are there other contaminants besides outgassing chemicals? Mold? That's not an outgassing chemical. What else? What? Say it again. Well, I guess solvents would be VOCs also.
Is dust.
Dust, yes. And what's that, what is the dander? You know what dander is? The hair off of animals, right? Your dogs, all the hair they shed. That can be a toxin. It's not automatically, none of these are automatically toxin, but some people, like dander doesn't affect me at all, but some people really react to it. How many people have an allergy to dogs or cats or hair? Yeah, it's not uncommon. So, it's like they call the combustion elements of fossil fuel toxins, but they're not toxins, they're just chemicals. Toxins only when it goes against some of our plans or messes up things. So methane and carbon dioxide are messing up our atmosphere, so we call it a toxin, but it's just a piece of nature. But here's an important one to know. If the odor of a product stops, if the smell of a product that you buy, like carpet, those are notorious for stinking, stops, the product has finished outgassing. True or false? False. It's not outgassing to the extent that you can smell it, obviously, because you don't smell it, but it doesn't mean it's stopped. So I don't know what to say if you buy a carpet you know, maybe find out, the carpet should have a, what do you call it? The information sheet. What do we call those? Dennis, you know the answer.
I think that sheets, the,
Safety data sheet or what?
Yeah, safety data sheet, whatever that's called.
Yeah.
So probably they will list those with carpets. And then you should either ask the people who are installing it or selling it to you, or find that sheet. And find out what they recommend for occupation after it's installed. Some might say, don't live in that room for 2 days, a week, or a month. I got this thing console for under my TV, just the console, just little doors and spaces from Vietnam. And I took it out of the box. It stunk so much. The VOCs just hit me right in the face. I had to leave it in the garage. I assembled it, put it in the garage for like a month.
You have a tree?
Huh? Yeah, I've never been the same since, but I left it a month and it still stunk, and I brought it in because our living room is pretty breezy, but man. They sit in a box shipping for a month and that stuff can't go anywhere, and a little bit of that won't hurt you here and there. But if you breathe a lot of it for like a week and it's really strong, you can do some damage. So if you have that smell on something you buy, see if you can put it somewhere for a few days, even outside or in the garage, where it can air out a little bit. That'll really help. Yeah, I wish it would stop when the smell stopped. It'd be a lot simpler for all of us, but almost all finishes, finishes like a paint or a stain or a polyurethane and glues have non-VOC alternatives. That's true. Okay, that'll be on there, but it might be on there, but that's true. One more additional sheet. Oh no. Oh yeah. In your book, in your text, they have a picture of drainage plane. It's under the siding chapter. I don't know what that is. Somebody maybe look that up. Look up the siding chapter in your text. Remember that picture I showed you, and we talked about it on Saturday, if not all of you were there, so you won't know. The tiny home had strips. We put Tyvek, and then we put 1/4 inch by 1.5 inch wood strips, and then we put the siding over that, so there was a space there for air to go. That's considered the suggested drainage plane nowadays. Not everybody does this, but the building scientists suggest that. Okay, I think that's enough. You guys would be good on that. So, no, we're gonna take a break for sure. 15 minutes. And does anybody know where Lewis has his class? You wanna go look for him? It isn't that big, and I think it might be where the green building, the green gardening class is. So it's just in this parking lot, the first building on that back row that's going down. Somebody wants to go over there and tell them to come over and tell me what's going on, but if they're having a party, don't go in, come back and tell the rest of us. Yeah, right. Huh? What are they gonna what? What are they gonna tell us? I don't know, but that's why one person should go over and see what's going on. So we're not crashing it. We're just exploring our options. Night class party, not too dependent on how many go. So take a 15 minute, you wanna go there? I can walk, I can walk. I need a walk. Get on these, hand out.
Little sugar.
They can super work with.
I came from my other part, like a couple, I put in the flower that, I think a little bit of everything over there, but I was bringing a light in the little viewers that there were talking, like. It's right here for. Yeah. 3:30 in the morning, bro. What happens when you're poor?
Not one.
Gotta check them
How
all.
are you? How's work? How's life?
Ooh, busy.
Yeah, you still working at,
Zero and.
yeah. with
The
William?
electrical. company.
Or no, you're with the electrical company, I forgot. How long has it been now?
Almost
4
like
months?
4 months. Close to 4 months.
Nice,
Probably a lot.
really?
Really crazy how electrical is,
Mm,
especially when you go to commercial.
right,
So you gotta deal with a lot of materials, right? Some are weatherproof, some are not, some you can use. And the code book is about this.
you have to study it, like,
Yeah, even I gotta, so now, in the past, that's what I asked God about how we can become an electrician, right? But on the way they did, the old electricians just work for 4 years on trades and then make the test, pass the test, and you get the contractor license. Now, you gotta be involved in school.
Oh.
Or not training, apprentice.
snaps.
Right,
Right. So which is like close to, or you can do it between 4 to 5 years. So you,
and you have to
Attended the
finish
school?
that before you,
yeah, before you apply for a journeyman, because now they counted your hours working on the company and your hours at school. If you don't meet any of
Both.
both, you can apply for the test. Two
wow,
different tests, journeyman,
mm-hmm,
and I guess the other one is a C10, which means is a contractor license.
okay, and that's like broader,
Mhm.
okay,
But you can choose whatever you wanna do at the point, so whatever. To me, it seems like more worth the C10, because you become a contractor and you can run your own business, and even in a company, you can make more money than a journeyman. I've seen that, on the on Craigslist, some companies are looking for journeymans, and then they offer between like 40 to 60 bucks an hour
okay,
if you work for them. And if you own a C10, then they say, okay, we need to negotiate the price, because it's better price per hour, the better rate.
so do you have to like get more hours of the apprenticeship or the schooling and stuff, or is it just like a
Just-
harder test?
No, it's a harder test.
Okay,
But some people said the journeyman is harder test than C10. No, never done it, but I just,
interesting,
right,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna do like an apprenticeship and,
because you can start it now, but at the time you started, they give you a car, that means you're on an apprenticeship to start working on a company.
Hmm,
It's the California state
okay,
card.
so like starting the like
Like
program,
the program of the Wicca, for example, my boss requires to get in on the Wicca. Is Wicca. Let me show you. Wicca electrical training. Goes go Wicca, and this is the program. So now you can go and look for classes. They have like
Mhm.
4 series of classes. Then each series is for different classes. You can attend in, for example, since series 100,
okay,
you attend 101,
mhm,
102, 103, well, of course, you gotta go one at a time.
right,
And then it's like 3 different ways to learn. One, they have like 3 centers. You can go and attend it in person, but they far away from here for some.
oh, I was gonna ask like,
Mhm. So
no,
it's not a choice for us.
mm,
The second option is online,
mhm,
on the structure,
mhm,
on the schedule.
okay.
Right.
Remember,
Or, yeah, the second, and the third one is you can attend those classes on your own time.
mm-hmm,
So they give you like
are
90
you doing
days.
some now?
Not yet.
Okay,
I'm gonna start that in this month.
mm-hmm,
So you attending some classes on your own time,
mm-hmm,
and you have like 90 days to make the test, the final test.
right,
Sometimes they require to go to maybe San Diego, Sacramento,
mm-hmm,
or Riverside to make the test.
mm-hmm.
Sometimes they're online.
Person,
Mhm.
okay,
Sometimes they're
Interesting.
online.
interesting. Thank you,
Yeah,
I should write that down,
right.
yeah,
Because some people has been working on the trace for 7 years.
mm-hmm, and
But
don't have their,
they don't meet the school hours that they need.
right,
So that's why they don't can become
mm-hmm.
and
And is it
certified
like-
electrician.
Are there several different like programs that you can do to get that license, or is that the only one?
No, so I think it's like 2 or 3 different schools,
Okay,
but the only one I know is this.
okay,
Because I hear for even you can go through the union,
yeah, I was thinking about that.
but then what I hear from the union, some good things, some bad things.
Mm-hmm,
One of the bad things is you can go to the union and they maybe send you a company that you've been working, you gotta be there working for like 2 years in a row
mm-hmm,
and just bending pipe
mm-hmm,
all those 2 years.
mm-hmm,
So what I hear from some journeymen, they said these people learn very slow way. 'Cause
mm-hmm,
you can be a master bending pipe, but
Mhm.
you don't know a lot of different stuff.
mm-hmm,
So working on a company is like where I am, you go and do residential. You now go and do commercial,
mm-hmm,
now some industrial.
mm-hmm.
I was working on the winding farms in Lombo,
Oh, no kidding.
so they were doing a lot all this project.
Are they putting up new ones or just for like replacing?
They are new ones, like they're like 30, very close to Lombo. I don't remember the name of the place. But
Interesting.
it's a company that are building those wind farms to bring the electricity to LA.
Mm-hmm,
So the company where I work, they are making all the wiring there. It's really huge wires, aluminum, and some junction boxes like big, and so it's a lot of heavy stuff.
that's so interesting.
Right, right. So they say, okay, here's gonna run this wire because it's gonna be like 100,000 volts running
Mm-hmm,
to get the electricity to LA.
mm-hmm,
So it's a high. And then we're running some transformers. I learned how to connect those transformers and install them.
that's awesome.
Right. And then
That's so sick.
because they transform 600 volts to 120
Mm-hmm,
because they have cameras, because they want to see how many bills are there
mm-hmm,
and keep looking if some of those camera of those wind farms
mm-hmm,
kill birds.
mm. Okay,
If something is an issue for
Yeah,
With those birds, they wanna close up those wind farms,
right.
so they wanna,
Mm-hmm.
so it's a lot of,
Yeah, different stuff going on. That's so
Yeah,
interesting and like
but-
different.
I was thinking how my boss can estimate the cost of these big projects.
Right.
Because you're gonna run wires even from one mountain to another mountain. So, calculate the rounds, right?
Right. Is it a private company?
Yep, but rounds like union jobs,
Mm-hmm.
because this guy used to work for the union for, well,
Interesting. Interesting.
right, so I know he's really smart.
Right.
And seems like this company is like small company, but oh, it's really,
That's yeah, to be like a company that
Mhm.
like a privately owned company, kind of small company, and to be able to be doing that big of a job is so cool.
I was.
That's awesome that that you're working on that.
Working on car alignment. I was working at Giordano's,
Mm-hmm.
running wires for some disconnects, sometimes some different equipment needs a disconnect.
Mm,
Because you need to disconnect the power when they gonna be serviced, for example, like the air conditioning.
okay.
You don't have to turn out the breaker, so it's better to have a disconnect. But you gotta run different wiring to go on different ways, but it's like 6 gauge wires. Remember how hard it is to work with the
Right.
plug? Now I'm working with really hard
Mm-hmm.
wiring, running, pulling.
Right. How is that?
Oh, so hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's really hard to pull wires from
How
200
many
feet.
how many people are on your team? Or is it just
Just to,
two?
oh yeah, we only work 2 people all the time. So it's like the journeyman and the helper,
Right.
or the apprentice.
Dang.
Sometimes we need some help, but mostly we work just. It's amazing.
Wild. That's really cool.
I remember I used to be good working with 12 gauge,
Hmm.
but some point was really hard.
Right. Yeah.
So now I went to places where I got like bunch of wires, and you make the big deals. So it's like 12 to
Dang.
make the big deal.
Do you
Remember?
need like bigger tools?
No, that's the
Really?
same tool we use here,
Really?
right? But you get more practice,
Mm-hmm.
you get smart
Yeah, the technique.
technique, and even my journeyman sometimes work on live circuits.
Mm-hmm.
This bunch of wire
Mm-hmm.
on 277 volts.
Wow.
So I have seen when he makes these connections, a lot of sparks coming from the wires. And then
Scary.
sometimes he gets shot. Yes.
Yeah.
He's very big guy, so he's doing the big deal,
Mm-hmm.
and at some point he touches the metal with
Oh,
his belly. He
dang.
just,
Oh no.
the 77 volts. I just got the one time shock with 277.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing a junction box on a ceiling,
Mm.
and so Giordano's has a lot of offices, so we couldn't shut up the lights. So I gotta work on live circuits, and I feel the power of 277.
Mhm. Yeah.
So then when you work with 120, it's like party.
Right. Yeah. I have family who does like who are linemen, and one of my uncles was on disability for a long time because he was like working on a line and it wasn't turned off and he fell and broke his leg. And it was like it took a long time for him to recover. And one of my cousins has been a lineman for a little bit and is like in training to be one of the linemen who gets like lowered down from helicopters, like for the really tall ones. So yeah, and I've like
Hey, that class left that had the party, they left some of their snacks there. So if you want, there's some fruit and
ooh,
tuna salad and some stuff you wanna go over,
yeah.
have some of that. let's just go over and do that, and then we want, we're gonna be more, we're just going. It's, I knew, this is what I knew would happen. But- Hey, let's go back over there. We're gonna be for a little bit, and then we want to. Yeah, you grab your stuff, come on over.
Okay. Wait.
Yeah, grab your stuff and just come on over, so. Unless you don't want any of it, and then you can just go, but we're gonna go over it. Hey, some of you guys have been there, right?
Yeah, we.
So, we're just gonna, I'm just gonna take the rest over and show them where it is, but if you're done there, then let's just go home. There's no way to have fun.
Alright.
This is why I'm a little technical, but we got time, we'll do this lesson.
Alright.
So I'm gonna go over, but anybody who wants to go over and get a little bit deep, otherwise we can just go.
November 11th. You told me one, I'll go, bro. Yeah, the 11th, because this weekend, my family's gonna go over I guess it's Saturday. Okay, we can go now, bro. Hey, come on, man, guys. Are we going?
Oh. Shit happens, yeah, like, I just walked out. Me too, Daniel. Me, I like looked up for it and went to work. Shit. Yeah. That's good to care about.
I want you to sit down and.
Anyway, this here.
That's what I'm doing, it's fucking warm in here now. Oh, it is.
Do you want to try some dinner then?
I don't know how long it's been sitting there for.
Oh, it's still good, bro.
I'll keep you.
I just don't fucking know the like.
Yeah, about experience or what? I'm too scared.
No, I don't like, I just fucking there. I
Here,
can't.
let me open it. You can fill my.
Like, I like raw fish, but. Let me go to these. Freaking man, oh. Open up. Yeah. Why don't you run on that?
Let me know. Pineapple?
Or lime.
I'm on pineapple. Is that right?
That's just because it's an interesting.
Oh.
I mean. Oh, I don't know.
Lower class. Huh? He said there's lower class.
No more class?
Yeah,
Yeah, he told me to go home.
They're older. Because they sort of gonna wait until he comes back.
I'm trying to make dinner right now. But you're gonna come back in like.
No, they're probably older. Class is older. You can go have it straight line.
Thanks, Bobby.
Oh, that's it.
Oh my gosh. It's like.
You go the other way.
Oh. Look, Gavin.
Oh,
man.
thanks, man. I didn't need that. you. Nothing good coming out. Oh, you're awesome. I'm not working the rest, my brother made me follow up. You guys now. What is it? I'm more down on them. Move that you should sleep in an hour. Oh, sleeping. Anyway, you're back off. No, I'm going back. All that. That's what God, you know, it takes some skill in the first place. No, not fun. Here, you can have this, I'm not gonna take one. Take it. God damn it, don't give me. That will look good. I would take my first time. I would take honestly a 5. What, really? Well, you know, it's kind of like. Yeah, so 5. Oh, okay, good. But you're also big too, though. So when you get to your head. Yeah, and remember, that stuff cannot hurt you, Matt. That stuff cannot hurt you. I know it can. No, it can't. I know it can. Yeah. That's what you gotta remember. What do you have tomorrow? What do you have tomorrow? Nothing. Don't work. What's the? I like 5. Like. Yeah, I'm enjoying something. I'm going to see that for a while. I'm not going to birthday. Wow. Yes, I want to. It's lit. Like, no, I don't. Yeah, I think it's. But for good, sometimes I need to have enough. And this year, that's my. I don't, well, no, and me and my brother on CTG acting. All right, sounds better, Elias. Yeah, speed started. Sir, maybe. You're always busy, so. Yeah. Well, I think I should finish the project tomorrow. Saturday? I'll probably, I got it. It's so we're just gonna take the for follow the. Delete it, right? Trip with grandpa? I like fun, but I don't want to drive. Who wants to do that? So should I need like an iron policy by load or what? No, eat it like where you're on home. Like if you did like how you did like right when you're up.
Okay.